Hey guys, it's Amy with to Plan, and today I am back with another video in my planner therapy series. So just a couple of things before we get started. First of all, I actually meant to do this video as a live, and it ended up being where my husband, like at the last minute, he literally told me last night as we were climbing into bed to go to sleep that he was going to be working from home today. And so because he's at home, I didn't want to like have a live stream occurring at the same time because he tends to make a lot of noise. And so that's pretty much it. So I've just had to wait for him to kind of wrap up for a little bit before I recorded this video. So normally I'm trying to get these videos up in the morning on Fridays, but just because he's now at lunch and took off for a little while, I was able to just kind of sit down and record this video. So hopefully I'll be able to finish it up before he gets back. So you can see here I basically have a blank sheet of paper, and I'll talk to you about what we're going to be doing here, but I wanted to go ahead and show you that this is one of the Disney Princess sheets, and there's some space in the back just to kind of like write what we're going to be writing today. And so what we're going to be doing today, and you saw this if you saw the card, the thumbnail for this video, what we're going to be talking about is developing a crisis or a safety plan for you. Now, this will be something that will be applicable to you if you deal with issues of depression where you are to the point of suicidal, or you're just kind of working through like a mental health crisis. For me in my clinical work, a lot of what I do, a lot of times when I do the safety plan, it's going to be with individuals who are suicidal. And so this is a good way for us to get to the point where we have something laid out on paper that we can use as a reference point for when we're not feeling good, like when we are suicidal or depressed or extremely anxious or just in crisis mood, and be able to reference this sheet of paper so that way we can work through the list. And really when I talk to my clients about the safety plan, I'm really telling them just go down the list. It's just step by step, just do these things. Now, what I'm going to do for my sheet is actually kind of write out the different steps that you'll need. But if you're working through this sheet yourself and trying to develop a plan for yourself, I do want you to, instead of writing out the things that I'm writing, I'll be writing like the actual headlines or the headings for it, but I want you to actually write things down. And a couple of tips for you: go with somewhere in the range of 3 items. Okay, I'm gonna say range, but like come up with at least 1 item. 3 items is the goal, and if you can come up with more, that'd be perfect. Okay, so the more the better, but definitely try to come up with at least 1 thing in each of these areas. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with just labeling this. I'm just going to write safety plan at the top. You can call it whatever you'd like. I like to actually call it a safety plan because this is meant to be a plan where you work your way back to a point of safety, physical safety and emotional safety. And so this is the safety plan. Now, again, I am going to just kind of like be talking you through and writing out what goes into each section, but you should certainly go ahead and fill it out for yourself. Now, again, I just put safety plan. Go ahead and put a title here. For the safety plan, I'm actually just going to lay out basically like I'm going to say 6 steps. So the way that I'm going to do this is actually probably like, I'm not going to draw the actual line, but I'm going to like kind of put a line down the middle mentally and then like write 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. And I can go on to the back page if I need to, but I think that I'm not going to for the time being. Let me go ahead and count lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Okay, so I'm just going to go with 24 because that's divisible by 4. And so each section gets 6 lines. Hopefully that's making sense. And again, you don't necessarily have to do that, but I just like to like have the space. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to count the next 6 and put number 2 here. And I'm just using a regular highlighter, 2, 3, 4, 5, to kind of like write these out. 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And again, you don't have to do all of these. Like it's totally fine for you just to write 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll put 4. Now, I'll label the other side in just a minute. And again, keeping in mind that I need to have like a line here. Let's start at step 1. For your safety plan, one of the first things that you really should do is right here step one, think about the triggers that you have. Okay, so here we're going to be making a list. And again, I'm not going to make a list myself, but I want you to make a list of all the triggers and warning signs. What are some of the things that, as you're thinking about your life and some of the things that can lead you to depression, lead you to anxiety, lead you to crisis? What are some of those triggers? Just to talk out some examples with you, it could be, for example, when something happens in a personal relationship, like you get into a fight with your significant other. It could be that there is a comment that's made, a specific phrase that triggers you. Go ahead and write out these triggers. Now, again, like I'm saying that you should have at least one item, aiming for 3, but you can certainly spend and like write as much as you need to here. But the goal is to be able to at least identify and put down on paper the triggers and warning signs that you have, right? And again, like some things that I want you to think about, it could be things, for example, like behaviors that you might engage in. So just thinking about some examples of this, it could be like, for example, where you have had a bad day at work and then you're starting to maybe drink or smoke a little bit more. That could be a behavior that could be a warning sign or a trigger for you. So think about that. Are there certain images or words? I've already mentioned words, right? Images or words that can trigger you or like lead you to depression or anxiety. Are there certain situations that can trigger you? So, for example, for someone with PTSD, it could be where there's a certain location or a certain area of town that can be a trigger for you. All right. So again, just listing out all of these different things. Some other things, I've already talked about behaviors, situations. One of the last ones is your personal feelings or mood. Okay, what are some of the things that, as you're going through your day, are there certain warning signs that you are kind of falling down into a little bit of a rabbit hole where you might end up in crisis? So just for example, for me, one of the things that I tend to notice with myself is that when I have like high levels of frustration, like I'm feeling personally frustrated about work or personal issues, then I need to be on the lookout for like falling into the trap of like just kind of like putting myself into an anxiety attack, right? So that's just an example. And again, in this section, list all your triggers and warning signs, okay? And these are just some areas for you to consider. All right, so that's the first step. Identify your triggers and warning signs. Go ahead and put them down. Again, use as much space as you need to, but definitely think about at least a handful, 1, 3, 5 things that will trigger you. And the reason we do this is that way you can, again, have it on paper so that way you know that these are the things that are things that you should be watching out for yourself in your personal life. Okay, step 1, that's the first step. Step 2, if you have a trigger or a warning sign that's been activated. So again, like I told you, for my example, that like when I find myself getting really extremely frustrated with something that's happening at work, and that level of frustration is like really kind of so high or through the roof, then that's a warning sign for me. So if that's the case, I've identified the warning sign, high level of frustration, right? I can like put it right here on my list, frustration. What I need to do is know that that's the warning sign for me and then move to step 2. Now, what is step 2? Step 2 are the internal coping strategies that you can engage in. All right. I put internal coping strategies, but really it could be any coping strategy that doesn't involve other people. Okay. I like to, maybe it's not so much internal strategies, but like coping strategies that involve one person, right? That one person being you, right? That involve just me. Okay, so this is like, again, this is just the things that you can do that are either internal, like you're just doing it in your head, or these are activities that are just you oriented. They don't involve other people. All right. So again, just to give you some things that you can kind of think of. Right here, it could be, for example, I'm just going to put, for example, it could be maybe you have certain relaxation activities that you engage in. For a lot of us, we enjoy planning. So it could be where, we have this internal or like this individual coping strategy where we're just going to sit with our planner for an hour or two and just kind of like try to relax that way. Maybe we enjoy journaling. Maybe we want to like relax just by taking a bubble bath. Like any of these relaxation techniques that you know for yourself, go ahead and list them here, okay? So what are some of the personal strategies that you use to kind of get your mind off of these like step one items? Okay, so relaxation is an example. You could also, I'll put techniques here just because it's not just relaxation per se, but like the actual activities that you're doing. And then the other big one is maybe there's some physical activity that you can engage in. Okay, now I'm very big on like trying to relax, or maybe if we're not going to relax, you're doing the opposite where you're going to like activate your body. And so again, examples here could be things like, going outside and just taking a 30-minute walk. It doesn't have to be exercise. It's just, you're just going to go take a walk outside. It could be where you decide to pull something up on YouTube and do a yoga exercise. Whatever it is, just some level of physical activity. The thing that I don't want you to put on here is relaxation techniques that are like mindless. And this is the key, and this is why it says internal, because these are meant to be like active mental or physical coping strategies that aren't you just kind of numbing yourself. Okay, so bad examples of things that are like coping strategies are things that I've kind of mentioned earlier. Things like drinking a little bit more, that might help you relax short term, but they're not active and positive coping strategies. Okay, so if you're looking at this list and trying to come up with things, aim for positive coping strategies, things that are either physical or things that are relaxing mentally but aren't mindless. Okay, so I mentioned drinking, but also another example of like a less positive relaxation technique would be like just turning on the TV and zoning out for a couple of hours. That's going to be less positive in the sense of like you might relax in the short term, but it's not like actively kind of connecting you back into your mind, back into your body. Okay, so try to aim for relaxation or mental techniques or physical techniques that are positively oriented. And I think you can kind of make that decision for yourself what those coping strategies will be. Okay. So that's step 2. Now, when we develop the safety plan, we've already identified our triggers and warning signs. We've identified these individual coping strategies, either mental or physical, that we can use. And again, these coping strategies are things that just involve you. When you have a crisis, something that happens in step 1 and you're like, oh no, I feel myself, for me, for example, getting really frustrated, I need to immediately move to step 2 and pick something from step 2 that I can do. Okay, and you don't have to do all of them. You just have to pick one thing on the list to try to do. Okay, so pick something from step 2. Now, if you do step 2 and you're like, okay, that helped me out. Like, again, I'm frustrated here in step 1. I decide that I'm going to like take an extra 30 minutes that night to journal or to do a little bit more like decorative planning. Those things helped me to calm down and kind of reduce my frustration from step 1. And so this safety plan has worked for me. I've been able to achieve this goal of like using my coping strategy in a positive way. If, on the other hand, you move through identifying your warning signs or triggers, you've tried at least one of these coping strategies, you can try more if you want to, and you're still really struggling, you're unable to get rid of whatever depression, anxiety, stress, PTSD, whatever mental health issue you have, you're just unable to get rid of it, we're going to move to step 3 then. Again, like you're kind of just working your way down the list. Now, what happens in step 3 is that here in step 3, we are going to be looking for people and places. Okay, I like to call it people and places. Now, people and places are these locations or these individuals that can help you get distracted or like turn your mind away from what's going on. Okay, so these are people and places to take your mind off whatever triggers you have going on. Okay, so I just like to put to take your mind off things. Now here, these are like, I mean, in short, they're basically distractions, okay? People or places that are serving as distractions for you. So what we have here, like I like to like list specific people, and I encourage you to list specific people. Okay, so one of the people for me is going to be Sophea. She's my 4-year-old daughter. She's a person that will help me take my mind off things. I've gotten here, I'm super frustrated. I tried to like spend 30 minutes journaling and that didn't help. So then I'm just going to go and spend 30 minutes with Sophea. I don't have to tell her about what's going on here. Like the person is just meant to take your mind off what's going on in your head. Or you could just, if you have a list of not specific people, then you might list specific places. I like to encourage people to like just go and people watch. So even if it's not a specific named person, you might just go to Walmart or to Target, for example, and just walk around and just look at people and like touch things, pick stuff up off the shelf at Target and just kind of like distract yourself that way. Okay. So again, this is people and places to take your mind off things. In this section, I encourage you to be very, very, very specific. Name them, write out their phone number if you need to. If there's a specific store that you like to go ahead and put, the Target that's by the mall or whatever location it is. Okay. And again, like you're developing this list, hopefully in a space where you can come up with a lot of ideas. And again, come up with at least one, but 3, 5, 6, however many you want, list as many as you need to in this area. And once you're in a place where you need this safety plan, you will have all of this information already listed here. I'm going to call my best friend. Here's her phone number. I've named her. I've listed her phone number. I can call her right away. I'm going to list specific family members. I'm going to list specific places that I'm going to go to, right? That's what you're going to do here in step 3. Now, again, here's what you do. Identify your triggers and warning signs. If one of these pop up, go immediately to step 2. Try to do a coping strategy. If that coping strategy, one or more, doesn't work for you, go to step 3. Do something that distracts you, all right? And again, the goal here is distraction. Right? Do something that distracts you. All right. And if in step 1, step 2, and step 3, you still haven't gotten to the point where you're not able to turn off what's going on in your head, then we're going to move to step 4. In step 4, what we're going to do is talk about people who can actually help you. All right. So this is going to be a list that you can ask for help. People that I can ask for help. Now, in this list, we're not actually talking about like professionals, okay? These are going to be, for example, your best friend, your mom, your dad, your significant other. These are people who know what's going on with you. They're not meant to be distraction. They have some understanding of what's going on with you. And if you tell them that you're struggling, they're going to be able to help you, okay? So these, again, like, important to note here that the difference between step 3, these people here, if you list people in step 3, these are people who might not know what's going on with you. They're just there to distract you. But here in step 4, these are people who actually know what's going on with you. They who know what's going on with you. And they can in some way help you, okay? They have the ability to help you, right? So again, in this section, be specific, right? Write down their name, write down their phone number, write down where you would find them. Like if you need to, write down what hours you can contact them, what hours you can't contact them. Like be as specific as possible in this area, right? And again, in this step 4, these are not necessarily people who are professionals. These are just the social circle, the people in your life who know what's going on with you and can help you. Okay. And so again, we're just walking down the list. Hopefully you're getting the hang of it at this point. All right. I'm going to go ahead and add my number 5 here and my number 6. And I think that I've done it well enough that I don't have to go to the next page. Okay. So step 5, like you've tried a coping strategy, one or more coping strategies. You've tried to distract yourself. You've asked the people in your life for help, and none of those things have worked. What we then do is move to step 5. And in step 5, what we're going to be looking at are going to be the professionals and the organizations. I'm going to put agencies. All right, the professionals and the agencies that can help you. Okay. So what we're going to do here is make a list of all of the contact information of professionals and agencies that you know in your local area that can help you, okay? So these are the professionals and agencies that I can contact when I'm in crisis. And again, be very specific here. We're going to, for example, like some people that you should probably have in this list. You should have your therapist, all right? You should have their name, their phone number, information on when you can contact them if they have like an emergency procedure in place. That's information you should include here in step 5. If you're working with multiple clinicians, doctors, therapists. List all of those people here. It might be that your medical doctor, your primary care physician might be more helpful for you in a specific like situation than your therapist. So list those people out. In addition to like these actual like specific people that you're working with, you might want to include, and you should actually, I do encourage you to do this, list people or like organizations in your local area, like your police department, right? One of the things that you can look up is the non-emergency number for your police department. What is that number that you can dial? If you have a sheriff's office, what's that number? What is the number for your closest urgent care center? All right. What is the closest location for like after hours care for you in terms of hospital, like so like the ER. Okay, so I said after hours, but like the ER, what is the closest ER that you have? One of the things that I also encourage you to include are like national hotlines. Okay, so if you need to have the number for the suicide hotline, I'll go ahead and give it to you. It's 1-800-273-TALK. Okay, and that number, this talk right here is 8255. Okay, you can dial that number and you'll be able to be connected to someone who can talk you through what's happening right then and there. Okay, so include all of this information, and again, be as specific as possible. All right, and then lastly is number 6. I guess I shouldn't have written this one because that one ended up being like, okay, whatever. So number six is making your environment safe. Now this is, although I'm listing it as number 6, this should be a constant, okay? You should be at the point of developing this plan where you have already made some of these environmental changes to your house, to the spaces that you live in and work in, so that way you cannot just reach out and find something that can be harmful to you. Okay, so what are some of the things that we need to do to make our environment safe? For me, again, like when I do this with my clients, I ask them to be very specific. I want you to think here about like, do you have access to certain things that might lead to problems for you? This could include, for example, guns, drugs, any other like methods that you might, or like tools that you might have that could potentially be harmful to you. So make a list of all of these things, write it out, acknowledge that these are some of the things that are going on in your mind, and then make those changes, right? So make sure that you are changing these things if you have them in your house or in your spaces, that you're making these changes for yourself. So that way, as you go through this list, you have already addressed this step. Okay, so really this is, although it's listed as step 6, it should be step 0. It should be something that you have already kind of worked through and fixed for yourself. Okay, then the last thing, I'm actually going to use the back page for this. I am going to write the prompt down here, but this is something that I want you to be able to include somewhere on your safety plan. And this is the prompt for you. It's pretty much the same one, right? What we're going to say here for this prompt, something that, sorry, I'm like writing and talking. The one prompt that you should use to kind of like set your mind in a more positive mind frame is the one thing that is going to be worth living for. Okay, it could be the most important thing to you. It could be just a person, a situation, an abstract thought of some sort. But what is the one thing that is worth living for? You can go ahead and write that out. You could have multiple items, right? So I'm just putting one thing because especially when we're in the middle of a crisis, it's very difficult for us to even sometimes come up with that one single item. If you need more journaling prompts, and if you're just kind of sitting there stuck and you're just kind of thinking, okay, what can I do here? Go back to that prompt, the one thing worth living for, and just write it out. I did this in last week's video where I just wrote out the same thing over and over again. You can do that, or you can just work your mind, look at that one item and see if from that one item you can think of other items that are worth living for. And so that's this safety plan. Now, again, I didn't write my personal safety plan here, but I hope you get an idea of what you should have in a safety plan. And I was able to at least give you enough information there so that way you can develop your own safety plan. For me in my clinical work, I use safety plans as a way for working with my clients, so that way they can kind of see already that they have coping strategies, that they have people and places in their lives that are already positive. And it's just easy for us to lose sight of those things when we're not feeling good, when we're depressed, when we're suicidal. And so I hope this video really helped you to think through these different steps, to write out these steps for you, especially if you're in a space where you're able to write it out and come up with a lot of great ideas here. I definitely encourage you to continue going back to this list and adding things as you come up with them, as you come up with people, as you come up with places that you enjoy kind of like using as distractions. List all of those things out. There's nothing about this plan that has to be set in stone. And I will next week not be on live stream. I already know that I won't be on live stream next week. So I will have a recorded video for next week as well. But we will resume the live stream hopefully in the month, later on in the month, towards the end of April. So again, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it's helpful to you. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Is there something that I missed off this plan that you felt I should have included? I'm very open to hearing your feedback and making changes to this. I can certainly record a second video and like update it if we need to do something different with this safety plan. So until the next video, take care. Bye.